Chapter 11, The Fulfilling Centers. You increase your insight into your life when you realize that everything you do or feel has a greater or lesser bearing on each of the first five centers. For example, when you are eating, you are experiencing the food predominantly from the sensation center as you enjoy the taste. However, eating has aspects that involve the security center, for food can serve as an emotional crutch to make you feel secure. And of course, the basic nutritional value in the food is connected with your security. Or your food can be experienced from the power center by pontificating to others as to what foods they really should be eating to become holy, spelled with an H. Your food can be enjoyed from the love center as a way of accepting and loving new tastes, or your food can be appreciated from the point of view of the cornucopia center as a further confirmation that you live in a beautiful world that gives you everything you need in order to live in higher consciousness. As you grow, you will begin to experience your food from any combination of the five centers, or all of them. In each of the five preceding centers, you will find that you are continually judging yourself. In greater or lesser degree, you are comparing your thoughts and actions with a center of consciousness to determine whether you are meeting the standards of the center. Each center presents you with something to do. One, achieving security. The second center, experiencing sensations. The third center, developing power. The fourth center, attaining the ability to love and accept everyone and everything unconditionally, no matter what happens. And the fifth center, experiencing the friendliness and perfection of everything around you. Even though you are not supposed to be driving yourself, you may constantly be wondering whether you are really progressing rapidly. You may be saying inwardly, quote, "Is Bob growing faster than I? What's holding me back? I thought my consciousness was at the love center and I just became aware of power aspects of our relationship. Quote, did I just blow it? Quote, does it help to keep a record of how many minutes a day I am on each of the centers? Or should I allow myself 1 month to get rid of most of the thoughts of the lower three centers?" You will go through phases in which you are addicted to the love center and the cornucopia center. You may become impatient because you thought you were loving unconditionally and you find something that you could not emotionally accept. Then you may get the feeling, quote, "I've just got to rush this through and then I can relax again and stop manipulating the people and things around me. I can really begin flowing for the rest of my life when I work through this problem." Although your growth toward higher consciousness is associated with unconditionally accepting yourself and others, you will find that you experience each of the five levels of consciousness as a standard by which you measure yourself. And isn't this an addiction? Each of these five centers of consciousness may be regarded as chains that keep you vulnerable to fear, resentment, anger, anxiety, worry, etc. Even when your consciousness resides most of the time in the cornucopia center, it is still chained, although it may be regarded as a light chain of the fine gold. The sixth center of consciousness, the conscious awareness center. The way to become free of these chains is to let your consciousness reside in your conscious awareness center. This is a peaceful place that is experienced from deep inside, where you just witness your drama in all of the other five centers. In this center, you do not judge or evaluate in any way. You just witness yourself. Quote, "There he is. He's in the unconditional love center. He just had a thought that he cannot really be loving when Mary gets mad at him. He's putting himself down because he cannot yet experience everything as a form of love." Unquote. From the detached conscious awareness center, you just watch yourself performing in all of the other five centers. You don't pat yourself on the back or criticize yourself in any way. You blissfully enjoy the show. You impartially witness yourself. You let your drama be anything and everything. You use the conscious awareness center as a meta center from which you get free from your preoccupation with the preceding five centers of consciousness. For all of the five centers bind you in one way or another by creating a special version of what's happening. You break through all chains when you experience every moment of your life from that deep, calm place inside, where you observe everything and accept everything. The sixth center, or the conscious awareness center, gives you a space between you and the surrounding world. From this center, you are no longer vulnerable to ups and downs. At last, you are free. Nothing can disturb you or bring you down, even though your body and mind may be going through various types of drama. You still have to, quote, chop wood and carry water, regardless of the center of consciousness you are on. You will still want to play an active part in the world around you. You will start, or you will still be learning various things, interacting with various people, and doing your part in building a more beautiful world by living a conscious life. But you will not be doing it. It will only be your body and mind that are involved in these daily dramas of working, playing, feeling, doing, etc. Your conscious awareness will be watching it all as a magic show from a beautiful place deep inside where everything is peaceful all of the time. Even if your body and mind go through the manifestations of anger or jealousy, you are aware that you are only playing out one of your addictive roles in your dramatic repertory. For you are just silently witnessing your body and mind picking up the cues and saying your lines as others recite their lines in the daily drama of life. When you live in the sixth center of consciousness, you will experience yourself as an actor on the great stage of life. Each day, you act out the lines that are dictated by the programming of your biocomputer, and you know the cues others pick up, and their responses to them are a function of the centers of consciousness that they are experiencing at the now moment in their journey toward awakening. Each of us creates a world that is generated by the centers of consciousness that we are using in today's script of the cosmic play. Central casting has furnished various people who are dressed up as actors for the purpose of helping you in your consciousness growth. But your higher consciousness is out in the quote unquote audience, watching your body and mind interact with other bodies and other minds on the stage. And you view everything you do and say as part of your own growth toward freedom from your addictive traps. Your addictive programs that activate your ego and your rational mind constantly keep you from realizing who you really are. The way to tell, quote, who you think you are, unquote, or who you think you are is to notice carefully what your ego is guarding. What are the quote unquote fronts or social images that you are now in the process of living out? What are the things what things trigger anger, fear, jealousy, or grief? What quote unquote somebody does uh, your rational mind defend? Or rather, what somebody does your rational mind defend from? Whatever dance you are now doing and backing up with your ego represents who you now think you are. All of this programming keeps you vulnerable and insecure. What images do you have of yourself? What kind of impressions do you want to make on others? Do you project yourself as an achieving person, a competent person, a quote unquote help poor me person, or someone that the world takes advantage of? Maybe a good mother, a good father, a good businessman, a good businesswoman, quote unquote dropout, one who is versed in various knowledge games, an artistic person, or a real expert in the sex games. Or perhaps your ego is guarding your image of being very perceptive of the foibles of our civilization and definitely above it all. Perhaps you have some hobbies and you guard your image as a guitar player, motorcyclist, a surfer, a painter, poet, singer, whatever. Or it may be that you are through with these mundane projects of your self image. Perhaps your ego is now guarding a quote unquote pure you as a climber of the mystical spiritual mountain. Do you get upset when someone points out that your way is not the only way or not the best way for him or her? What are the various games into which your ego is directing your energy and consciousness at this time in your life? When you clearly see your various activities, games, and personal boundaries as a drama that your ego is now trying to guard and enhance, you will understand who you now think you are. But you are not any of this quote unquote stuff. All of this stuff is simply a dance that you are going through to discover the conscious being that you really are. If you were to write a list of all the activities, attributes, personality characteristics, and personal boundaries that your ego is now defending, you will find that many of them were not on the list 10 years ago. And if you grow toward higher consciousness, most of them will not be on the list 10 years from now. As you increase in consciousness, you see with perspective the way you busily engaged in a mechanical playing out of the roles in which you have programmed yourself to be. All of these things that your ego is busy defending act as a series of boxes that keep you trapped. Every box suffocates and is your ever present source of vulnerability on the roller coaster of pleasure and pain. Most of the addictive models you are now guarding represent patterns of personality that are a function of the time and place where you were born and you grew up and who you were around. If you had been born in a different social group, your ego would be busily engaged in guarding a different set of roles. The world is here for us to enjoy, but we can totally enjoy it only when we are free from identifying with the roles we play in the drama of life. The only way to continuously enjoy a game of chess or checkers is to avoid taking it so seriously that you get emotionally caught up in either winning or losing. Human beings, with their big rational minds, enjoy solving problems. But we tend to take these problems with such seriousness, perhaps due to our prestige addictions, that we kill the aliveness and fun of the here and now life situation. We need a way to discriminate between what we essentially are and the motivational models that generate our behavior. To get free of our identification with the social games in which we are now trapped in, we must clearly see the games for what they are. It can be helpful to experience a book such as Ruth Benedict's Patterns of Culture. When we see the mores of our tribe from the perspective of comparative anthropology, it helps us liberate ourselves from the cultural traps. When we really see the economic and social folkways of our in group with insight, how can our egos continue to get away with demanding so much that we really don't need in order to be happy? How can we take so seriously the many prestige games in which we are now engaged? How can our pride keep us imprisoned in the meaningless, quote unquote, loss or gain, fame or shame games that we previously thought were necessary in order to make our lives work? A conscious being does not reject either his individual games or society's games. He just plays them as games. If our group says, quote, let's play the game of keeping the sexual parts of our body covered when we walk down Main Street, and quote, it is accepted as a part of the here and now games of life. If a conscious being is in a place where the group says, here is a bench, or here is a beach, or a hot springs where nude bathing takes place, an individual without addictions in this area can also flow with what is here and now. Except where individuals are being harmed, conscious people flow with the activities and feelings of the group. They are magnificently flexible, and they are comfortable with whatever dance the social orchestra may be playing. They are equally comfortable in trying to change the dance, for they usually find ways to work toward change from an quote unquote us space. In their consciousness, love, insight, and flexibility gives us messages that help us spring free from the social rigidities that we thought were natural, unquote.